Okay. I lost a whole video of talking about sci-fi books. Where was I last? Brian Aldiss. Ugh, I literally can't remember. This book, amazing cover, amazing title, good premise. I want to read it. Kind of fantasy on Mars in a way. The city outside the world. This incredibly beautiful pulp artifact. I want to make a t-shirt with this thing from the back. It was forbidden to enter the tower, in that phrase. That's amazing. In Tarot, isn't the tower significant? Like a time of extreme change. Flatland by Eben Abbott, an amazing work. A being experiences all the dimensions, from only 1 to 2 to our standard 3 to 4 to 5 and so on. It's amazing. It's so imaginative and interesting. Brain stretching. A hard to categorize masterpiece. It's equal parts logic, puzzle, something for younger readers, a work of literature, a fantasy story, sci-fi kind of. This is interesting because it's about like humankind's next 40 million years. That's a great premise. This is moving up my to-read list. This one's about the Bermuda Triangle. I was on a kick reading about that for a while because I camped on a corner of it once. Classic story of dichotomy, classic double story. A potion makes you divide into your evil self and your good self. Fascinating. It's the only Stephen King book I own. I was trying to get horror writing down when I was working on an essay that just meant to read like a real life horror story. It's about 2/3 done. I'll resume it sometime. I was giving it a rest. I was reading a lot of Clive Barker and some Stephen King. I don't know, I find Stephen King more like fantastical than scary. It's part of a real American tradition. He once drove by and waved at me and a group of friends in Bangor, Maine. And I saw his house. This person's cousin I used to be in a writing group with in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and he often includes Las Cruces. Las Cruces is a really cool, distinct desert town with palm trees. Most New Mexico towns don't have palm trees. And these giant craggy Oregon and other mountains all around the area. It's an incredible landscape, a much more threatening desert than central New Mexico where I live. But I really value the time I bonded with that desert down there. I had so many cool secret spots and stuff in Las Cruces. An old dam out in the middle of the desert, a lost hideout of Billy the Kid, meteor crater, meteor vent, or volcanic vent. Anyway, these books are about people with psychic abilities, and they have purple eyes. And I think they can like commune with the dead, like connect to like another plane of existence where the dead are. And this was my friend's cousin. It's pretty cool. It was a good like pulpy series. These were sold everywhere. They were very popular. But then, as is really common, his series got dropped in the middle of it before the big arcs were resolved. That can happen. Jules Verne. Jules Verne, the book I most wanted to be true for so long. Such a cool idea. Book I read age 17 or 18 in college. Maybe even in high school, I don't know. About a mentally challenged person that gets super intelligent and then goes back to being mentally challenged. Really cool, interesting premise. I don't know, maybe I looked at this one in a video that didn't get deleted. Pretty cool copies of 1984. Tempted to turn them into a single art piece for the wall. But they're pretty cool looking. Maybe there's some Orwell collector out there that wants all 3 of these. I like that one that's standing up the best. The green one second and the other one third. Now you know. I could look at these other sci-fi here. But I also got a really cool thrift store haul today. I kind of want to glance at it. I got a novel potentially for the literary fiction case that I'm reading all of as part of the paperback project. And it's a beautiful old edition. Oh yeah. George Eliot. And this looks interesting. Carmen, Columbia, and Selected Stories. Prosper Marinette. Pretty nice edition. Tales of passion and vengeance. Conflict and death. So those are the 2 for that mainstream literary paperback case. Here's for the Sci-Fi case. This is the prelude to Foundation by Gasmo. So now I have the first 5 Foundation books. That's awesome. I want to get the 6th one too, and there might be more. I mean, I see the big picture of this project and I want to read it all. And apparently the iRobot writings overlap. They're in the same universe. And the true fans consider them the same, on the same timeline, and theorize about all that. Prelude to Foundation, Foundation and Empire. And second Foundation is third. And Foundation's Edge, that was kind of like a starting it up again. I'd like to have all of those old ones, but in time perhaps. I had 2 of that first one until recently. I gave one to my friend Lisa with some other paperback doubles. She's a collector as well. She gave me a 1940s hardback, paperback sized book of Candide, Voltaire, and I collect all different versions of that, or I have in the past. So that's awesome. Yeah, a big picture history of the future of humanity. It's pretty cool. I mean, I really enjoyed Foundation. That's the only one of these I read. I think I've heard it's a show too. Here's the other thrift store purchase I bought. These are all from Family Thrift. Australian science fiction. That's so cool. I bet it's real specific. This is the first historical anthology of Australian science fiction. It offers a good selection. It's a pretty nice looking book too, so rock and roll. You know, I mourn a crease, but this is a beautiful old 60s edition of Ficciones from Borges. Yeah. Look at that cover. Oh, yeah. I think I might have Ficciones, but I don't have this edition. This is gorgeous. Yeah, I have this one. So this is like a reading copy, I would call it. Yeah. This one is to be admired and maybe given a small parade. You can always arrange a small parade if it's just you and your cats, you know, and whatever object. I also have this Borges. Maybe I should put all the Borges together. This one looks very cool. Here's that Candide my friend gave me. Yeah. It's so cool. It's like 1940s. Yeah, he's pretty good. Honestly, his work challenges me, but but I think he's good. He's interesting. He's provocative. I found myself continuing to think about pieces of his, like Pierre Menard, for many years after reading them. Okay, this is so creepy. Remember, I don't know if you've watched my videos a long way back. I know there's a few people like that. There are 2 copies of this somehow. Is this a prank? I think my daughter Anodyne has a friend that is watching this channel, telling Anodyne what is about me joking about this book following me around from section to section, and put a second one into my collection. I cannot think of how there are 2 in my house now. I never picked up a second book of this. I genuinely am a little bit creeped out by it. I kind of feel it in my shoulder blades a little bit, like, ugh. I thought 1 was creepy. How did 2 get into my house? Plus, I'm watching this movie about a haunted mirror, Oculus. Mike Flanagan. Early, what's her name? Karen Gillan performance. Later of Jumanji and the Marvel movies. So, I don't know. I yelped when I saw the second one on the shelf. I'm like, wait. What? It's gotta be a prank. Somehow my daughter Anodyne is involved in this. I'm like, if a third one appears, oh my gosh. Maybe I'm completely insane, and you viewers at home are like, those are 2 totally different books. No, these are the same book, right? Yeah, good advice, but if a third one of these appears, I'm gonna freak. I'm not even kidding. Anodyne, ask yourself if this prank is worth it, because your old father's gonna go mental. Gonna go? What are you talking about? I don't even know. I just don't know. Okay, I was so excited to see this. They had volume 3 too, but I didn't need it. But long ago, like years ago, I loaned out My Struggle Book 2 to somebody that I never got it back from, and it's just demoralizing, the whole process of having to like bug somebody to get something back they've had that long. So I'm like, if I ever see a copy, I'm just gonna buy it. This was like $2. because it was $4 and there was a green tag on it. So that's like, what? This is a super interesting masterwork, maximalist work. I love My Struggle. Way interesting. Is it flawed? Does the Hitler stuff work? Is it filler? I don't know. It's definitely a work of TMI sometimes. So now I can add it to these. You know, maybe it's not the worst thing to put a book on top of other books once in a while. I don't mind it. But yeah, look, now my struggles are all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah. I read them all. One at a time. It's like a year between each volume usually. I read them as they came out. Really a cool series. Here's a later book, not part of My Struggle, from him, connected to another series, a shorter series. Here's his first book from before My Struggle I'd never read. I'm a big Knausgaard fan. I mean, just from My Struggle, I'm a big Knausgaard fan. I think that's all I have of him. I've read some little books of his that I got from the library too. Like he did one on that painter Edvard Munch. Though I prefer Peter Watkins' fake documentary film about Munch as a document about that figure. But still, Knausgaard's take was interesting. Little essay. Then I got this one. This is totally right up my alley. I'm so interested in the Escalante Dominguez expedition. I have a couple of books on it, and I've retraced some parts of it. Been to their statues in Page, Arizona, and read so much about him, and yep, I'm stacking it there for now. These are all Southwestern books, and that's appropriate for it. I've got another book on that expedition somewhere around here. Here it is. This book's also about the Dominguez Escalante expedition. That was when the first map that included Albuquerque was made. Bernardo Miera y Pacheco, who was the map maker on that expedition, drew this great map of New Mexico with a lot of details. He drew these 4 hills that are right by where I live that are on that map. I live right by them right now. They were once hollowed out and full of nukes later on. But the Dominguez and Escalante expedition was a huge circular 2,000-mile trip. That's exactly what this canoe trip was. I did also. It was a 2,000-mile round circular trip, so I used that as a parallel in something I wrote once. But now I've got another book about them, so that's cool. This is currently in the New Mexico section, but it could totally just be in the Southwestern section too. That's a fascinating expedition, Dominguez Escalante. 2 friars trying to find a route from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Monterey, California. And they failed, and it got crazy, and they turned around, and the church was like, well, then it doesn't count for anything. You didn't do it. But they're like, but we explored so much new land and met all these people. And everywhere they went, they spread Bible stories, and those stories morphed until John Wesley Powell went through and recorded transformed versions of them that were just amazing and different. You know, Moses taking off a face to create Aaron, and the mask creates a second person. It's like, what? Really interesting stuff. Anyway, history's cool. In fact, it was thinking about the Dominguez Escalante expedition that kind of got me into history. Because I was listening to a radio report from Page, Arizona when I was doing this canoe trip around the circumference of Lake Powell in 1999 and 2000. And they were all talking about the crossing of the fathers and stuff. And I was like, that's exactly right where I am right now. It was right there. And before Lake Powell covered it, in Glen Canyon, it was where the Dominguez Escalante expedition crossed in 1776. Before the winter went real bad in the mountains around Provo, Utah. Way before Provo. Well, no, I don't know. Yeah. Provo was named after a French trapper, but so that would have been like 1830s or later. But yeah, I was somewhere on this map here. And I remember just being like, that's right here. Suddenly, history was not something dusty and far away. It was like immediate, and I really felt that whole like collapse of time feeling just walking around on the shore and thinking about the story. You know, the past felt alive there. It was like, I don't know, animated it. It's like, to me, if you really like learn about history, it's so exciting. It's not boring. Yeah, what a landscape. Great book. Very useful to me on that trip. I had an old copy of it that got so beat up. So I got that one. And I got these 2 Images of America books. My book is an Image of America book, and I have a small collection of these and others woven throughout the collection. See, I got a bunch here. I just got a 3rd copy of my friend Ty's book from a thrift store. It was like only a couple of bucks. Everything ends up in a thrift store eventually. I've seen my book in places. But now I have 3 copies of Ty's book somehow, because I got one from my dad. He got dementia, and I got some of his book collection when his apartment got cleaned out. But I was like, how many copies of Ty's book would I have to get for him to be really freaked out? That's kind of funny. Every time he comes over, I just have more copies of it. He's going to be like, what's going on? And I got this one, Pueblos of New Mexico. The Pueblos are really interesting. A Pueblo is just a Native American village. That's a Spanish word, but it's a Native American village. And New Mexico, its indigenous peoples were not a monolith. Some were nomadic, like the Apache and Comanche and Navajo, and roamed and raided, and but many were Puebloans. They had communities and agriculture and were very rooted. And, it's one of the things that makes Albuquerque really unique is that it's encircled by these ancient villages that go back forever. I mean, 1200 and beyond. I don't think I was filming. Albuquerque parks and open spaces. What was I not filming? Did I show this one? I wrote that one. Turquoise Trail. There's a lot of Images of America. I have this idea to make an app using the database of photographs that they have that would tag each photo to a location or a general area. That would be amazing. A local history app like that. It's $1 million idea. I should do something with it. Put those away later. So that was a cool free pile. No, it wasn't. I spent $25 at Family Thrift. I'm losing my mind. Deal with that later. Yeah. Try to finish this sci-fi. I hear this is great. Davy. It's considered a masterpiece. One of the 10 best science fiction novels of the year. Davy is many things to many people, so unusual as to make it both refreshing and thought-provoking. What's the deal with it? This chilling and fascinating book is a life in the future novel written for the intelligent and adult. Interesting. Superb entertainment, unique. I was delighted all the way through, says Robert Hyland. Don't miss Davy. Wonder if that Adventure Time episode Davy is drawing from this one. I've watched that show with my kids so many times and I love it. I think it's a great mythology. Kind of a masterpiece, really. I bought these new at Bookworks some time ago. I had recently seen Dune Part 2, the movie, with my kids and enjoyed it. And I had recently seen the Lynch 84 version too, which is actually really good. And the only problem with that is that it's too short. Like the studio messed with it. It needed some explanatory stuff. The answer is not always to cut things. Sometimes you just need it there, So Dune, tells this story, and then the second one kind of inverts it. And all Dune fans say, you got to read the second one to kind of explain and complete the first. And Denis Villeneuve is going to adapt Dune Messiah here into... These are pretty. These are new books, and they look great, Dune has a really unusual publication history. It was originally published by an auto parts catalog company that was like, we believe in it. We want it to be in the world. Crazy. And Frank Herbert was studying actual dunes in Oregon, writing a dissertation on it. This is based in such a complete thing. I watched so many of those Quinn's Ideas videos where he talks about dune lore, and you see like what a complete and connected ecosystem the whole dune world is, and how everything from the sandworms to the spice to everything is totally entwined. And it's a fascinating idea to tell the story of a far future human civilization. I'm intrigued by those stories, and anything's possible. The reality we live in now would be unimaginable to people 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago. Anyway, someone at the camp I worked at this summer was reading this edition of Dune for much of the summer, and I'm like, the whole time I was like, I want to own that copy. Not long after that job, I got this at that store. And that one, I'll start with these. You know, it's a commitment to read a big work like that, but I will. Chris from Liminal Spaces says the secret is to read Dune, the first 50 pages, and then read it all over again. You need like that exposition. This is like a horror novel. I don't have that many of these. Horror and sci-fi can overlap. A novel by Arthur Herzog. I thought he was kind of a literary dude. Swarm bees. Oh, this was part of the killer bee hysteria. That's exciting. A novel that tops them all in horrors. I mean, we could see some crazy stuff. Viruses loosed from the permafrost. God, there's a measles outbreak in New Mexico and Texas right now. I can't believe it. Ugh. Genuinely worry for my kids. Their mom has some kind of hippie anti-vax beliefs sometimes. Every vaccination the kids have ever gotten has been like a battle with her. I don't know. We have a relationship of mutual respect, but it's just something we disagree on. Stakes are high. I'm just worried about killer bees, you know. It's also been turned into a movie, huh? Michael Caine, Olivia de Havilland, Henry Fonda, Slim Pickens, Patty Duke, Asa. A masterpiece of chilling terror that just might come true. Yikes. This is another very of its time book. This is about the wave of cattle mutilation reports that were connected to UFOs in the 70s in New Mexico. This used to be such a big, strange New Mexico story that never gets talked about anymore. Never. It's been a tiny New Mexico town of Los Sombras has been stunned by the discovery of over 300 cattle killed and mutilated in one night, the largest slaughter yet. And the wave of brutal mutilation sweeping the western ranches. The mute strategy. I read this. Hondo Valley, I've driven through there many times. Yeah, I got this when I was getting all the sci-fi I could find that used New Mexico as a setting for a piece I was going to write. And read it during that time. I did so much research for that, and I never really wrote it. It's crazy. It will be a chapter in book 2 of my book, so it'll pay off eventually, I guess. And I did get one article out of it. Oh, Mors Zelazny, This Immortal. I think this is a famous one. I don't know much about it. Sounds pulpy. Maybe it's good. Probably is. He's a good sci-fi writer. I read this one. It's very Mad Max. It's cool. It's like Mad Max cyberpunk a little. And about these drivers, and the climate is just ruined. It's just raining gravel all the time, impossibly, because the climate is in such a uproar. And the only people that can make these runs do it in these specially made vehicles where they're like prey to everybody. Harlan Ellison would like him on Zelazny. His stories are sunk to the knees in maturity and wisdom, and bravura writing that breaks rules most writers only suspect exist. His concepts are fresh, his attacks bold, his resolutions generally trenchant, thus leading us inexorably to the conclusion that Roger Zelazny is the reincarnation of Geoffrey Chaucer. Mr. Zelazny was born in London in 1340 and served King Edward on secret missions in Flanders in 1376-7. He also lived under the name of Cyril Tournier for 20 years. He is married now, lives in Baltimore. So is that a picture of Harlan Ellison or Roger Zelazny? Yeah, this one stayed with me. And this was turned into a movie, apparently, which I think I've seen clips of. Oh, I love these like horror novels have like come into my collection. How did I? It's not something I really collect, but cool. I should read one or two sometime. Guardian, horrifying and mesmerizing. I couldn't put it down, Stephen King. Okay. Oh, their nanny is creepy. Compared to Rosemary's Baby, huh? That's a real vibe. That's a real specific look right there. Thoroughly gripping, Dean Koontz. Another Michael Crichton. I think this is the only one of only 2 of his I own. I wouldn't mind owning Jurassic Park again. I read that back before the movie came out. And The Lost World. Stuff was hot. Who didn't love dinosaurs? Timeline, compulsory reading. Yeah, time travel, that's cool. I feel like this was turned into an under-the-radar movie, too. I'm not sure. Okay. 600 years in the past, fighting for their survival. Researchers. Okay. The pace will leave many breathlessly grasping for oxygen masks. Wow. This book is literally dangerous. Compulsive reading. Okay, that's a beautiful book, but I mean, what? That's just a great design. It's so of a time, and it's so unique. It's great. Also, I have this as a tribute to my best friend from 5th grade, Carl Rhodes. He was this nerdy little orange-haired kid, and he was always reading Anne McCaffrey books. He's all the Dragon Riders of Pern. But now he is like a really successful marine biologist, and he's got like the best Facebook of anybody I know. He's just like always swimming with dolphins and stuff, hanging out in the ocean. I'm like, dude, Carl. Yeah. Dragons have never, people might have called me nerd at different times in my life, but the dragon corner of that nerdy world is not like where I was hanging out all the time. That's a great cover, though. And I should read this. I mean, I don't know. If something's really good, I want to read it. The Planet of the Apes are actually a really intelligent franchise. Both waves of the movies are, honestly. The original ones are like very unique sci-fi stories, and the new ones are doing something totally different. But they're also good and kind of revolutionary in their thinking. One of the trekkers this summer I was with was reading this in French the whole time. I think I picked this up afterward because of that. I'm like, oh yeah, it was a book. He's like, the ending is totally different. That guy was hilarious. We'd play charades with everybody, and it would just become just him doing stuff. It was like, had like a Jim Carrey-like nature, a mime-like nature. Able to just be really hilarious in that way. Planet of the Apes. It's a wild edition. I lament the tag, but And this one's a recent book, but that's just already one of the most beautiful covers I own. I was at a bookstore, or at thrift store today, and they had a version of Lord of the Rings that had a very similar designed cover to this. I think it was the same artist. I was tempted to get it just for that. I'm like, do I want this? Fish Dinner in Mnemosyne is it's the final volume chronologically in the Worm Ouroboros group, of which James Stephens says its pages are living and vivid and noble, and these are these in a sense that belongs to no other writer I know of. This is the largest, the most abundant, the most magnificent book of our time. Yikes, man, that's huge. It's quite effusive. I mean, it is a beautiful paperback, too. It draws me in a bit. Neither train nor boat connections to hamper him, nor delays of Sunday services. He landed less than 25 hours after his start from Verona. His man, David, instructed by telegram, was waiting with the car. Coachman in the family, like his father and grandfather before him, with, of late, under protest, and because needs must, part-time transformations to chauffeur. Lessingham took the wheel. It was, for a driver reckless and violent, 2 hours' drive home. Well, I don't know what you got out of that, but I thought, maybe context matters. And then, last but not least, this is a beautiful book. This was my older brother Rob's favorite book for a while. And he used to have a favorite book for a while, and it was just an obsession for him for a while. It was like To Kill a Mockingbird, or Dandelion Wine, or was it ever A Tree Grows in Brooklyn? But he just it was really, I don't know. He would get everybody excited about whatever book he was really into, because if you really love a book and you tell everybody about it, you're probably right in what you're saying. You've discovered something there that's brought you joy, And we're all not so unique. But that's a good cover. That's how you do a good cover. Over 1 million copies in print. And that's that for the paperback sci-fi section. And then this video also contains some other stuff, right? And we'll fix all that biz. I don't know. I probably lost some others when I did that video. But I'm going to do some standalone sci-fi authors after we look at this shelf. And this stuff down here. And that stack of books about science fiction. That's a different thing. There's 7 books there that are about sci-fi. And after that, who knows? Maybe this channel will just become doing what these two tell me to do. Find more copies of your book. to magnify your presence in the room. I don't know if I should do that. What do you mean, great rewards? Really? Me? Yeah, but you're probably evil. I'm getting the vibe, you know? That is true. Nietzsche would say that beyond good and evil. Even so, I want you to look down for a little while. Too weird. I still have no idea how there's a second copy of that here. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. Y'all are great. I'm sure the cats appreciate it too. Don't you, Squirrel? How about you, Prisma? My kids were just over tonight. My son says he'll record a video with me in the same style, talking about books that we read together when he was growing up that mean something to him. That'll be cool. You know, parents exploiting their children for content. That's an old tradition. All right, you two are cute. We're moving through some sci-fi. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Our numbers are slowly climbing. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate knowing you're all out there. Take care. Nice to know there's smart people that care about an intellectual and felt and experienced world, you know, the world that books represent. It's pretty cool. We're like in a secret club with a secret sense, you know. Living many lives instead of one. Growing ever smarter, ideally, theoretically. All right. Take care, everybody. Good night.